We will start our meeting today reading a message from the book Opening Doors Within. Why be afraid of anything? I am with you always. I go before you to prepare the way. And it will unfold into perfection at the right time. You must have faith, and your faith must be strong and rock-like to be able to live this life. Your faith grows stronger when it is put into practice. Faith is not something to be talked about. It has to be lived so that all souls can see that it is not the same glorious state of living up in the clouds, but it's very real and it's something that works in everyday living. It is quite useless to talk about faith or read about it if you do not live by it. It means you have to step off the deep end and swim, not just paddle around the shallows with your foot on the bottom, pretending to yourself that you can swim. Why not get into action and live this full and glorious life now?
Dear God, our merciful Father, Jesus, our dear Master, we are here today, gathered together once again to learn the teachings of Jesus and the Enlightened Spirits bring to us, enlightening to our hearts and to our minds, to change our belief systems, to make different ways of understanding, to try to make more efforts in order to live according to those laws. We ask the permission in that vibrations to start the meeting of today. So be it.
Hello everyone, all of us, incarnates and all of those in the spirit who may be also with us. Privileged with this opportunity for us to carry on our studies as immortal beings as we all are. Blessed with these teachings that the enlightened spirits are bringing to humanity. As students as we all are, we are studying the Spirit's book and we are in the chapter Moral Perfection and under the subtitle Selfishness. On the question 917, which we have been exploring for quite some weeks. No wonder why this question is so long. Probably because we need to reflect a lot about selfishness, which is always a good opportunities for us as we are in a world of trials and expiations. That means that we still have a lot to overcome in terms of our imperfections. But we are all created by God, and essentially we are all immortal beings and beings of light and love and peace, which we are conquering as we perfect ourselves on the ethical levels. Within that in mind, we carry on today then, just bear in mind the question which we are reflecting on is the 917, which is what is the means for destroying selfishness? It's just for us to focus on and remind where we finished last week, which was this paragraph, wasn't it? We ended on through education. And bear in mind that education under the eyes of the immortality of the soul means to educate ourselves according to the law, the natural laws in the universe, is what we are really learning and trying to engage in this process. So today we carry on to the next paragraph. We're still referring to the question 917. So let's start. Cynthia, would you like to read it for us, please?
Not the education that aims only to educate people, however, rather the education that also aims to make them moral individuals. When it is rightly understood, education will be the key to moral progress. When the art of managing characters is understood as well as the art of managing intelligences, we will be able to correct characters in the same way we straighten new ones. However, this art requires much tact, much experience, and profound observation. It is a serious error to believe that it is enough to simply have knowledge in order to apply it advantageously.
Okay, let's go through this bit here. We start, as we always do, phrase by phrase, which is easy and helps us to go through gradually, so we can go a bit more deeper, according to our understanding at present. So when we start, not the education that aims only to educate people, however, rather the education that also aims to make them moral individuals. So what do we understand within this first phrase now? What comes to our minds? Not the education that aims only to educate people. So what is the difference here? Or what are they trying to help us to reflect on? When we are in the chapter Moral Perfection, under the sub-item Selfishness. Anything that comes to us?
On earth, we have this education that we go through since childhood, where we learn about all the laws of matter or everything we need to learn, let's say, in order to have a profession or a career. But I think also Kardec is emphasizing the moral education, which has to do with our spiritual nature or our moral education.
Okay, good. So he's referring to the distinction between the education that we go through as incarnated spirits, that we go to the schools, that we go to the universities, that we learn and expand our knowledge, but he also is referring to the moral education, which is the spiritual education or the education on the psychological and emotional level, where we are invited in the school of life for us to re-educate ourselves according to the natural laws in the universe.
Kardec develops this question as well in the Spiritist magazine in 1864, I think. I forgot his name now. We had a lecture about it, and he was giving examples from since we are born, since we are children, how we get this education at home. And it was quite interesting examples of how the parents can sometimes make the child to be selfish without realizing it. We've seen more examples. One example that he gave was very interesting to me, and I never thought about it, is kind of punishing the child, saying you do not have his behavior. If the child has a brother or sister, for example, I will give your food to your brother, and he was saying with this action alone, we are sensitizing vanity, selfishness, and also inveja. Yeah, but I think this moral education that Kardec is talking about, it doesn't necessarily start when you actually start attending school. I think it starts
Things at home. Correct, well done, well said. Also, I would say, as we believe in the immortality of the soul and through the law of reincarnation, which already the education is happening through the pregnancy stage. So from that point onwards, we already can help us and those who are reincarnating through us, helping them to guide them towards. At each study that we do, according as we do here, as parents, that also can help and impact the being who is with us helping. But surely in the family setting, which is the first school or the first society that the spirit comes into, that is vital. How much we can impact that being during these initial years. Anything else that we take from the first phrase? Otherwise, move on then. When it is rightly understood, education will be the key to moral progress. What do we understand with that phrase? When it is rightly understood, do they mean to say that it is wrongly understood? Is that what he's saying? Are you following?
There's too much emphasis, like you said. There's too much emphasis, like you said, for the intellectual intelligence and on the moral development.
Okay, correct. So when they say when it is rightly understood, it means that all of us coming from materialistic viewpoints through our journey of evolution, we may also have wrongly understood education. And now we are all invited as children of God, either as adults, adolescents, or children as in a new physical body, to correct our understanding. Education will be the key of moral progress. Why? If it's rightly understood, why education will be the key of moral progress?
Because we will understand that is it throughout the process of understanding the God's laws, and there's not punishment, it's an education process. So we will understand and we will try to educate our own self and help others as well. As Jesus said that the students is the ones that compares or be the same as the children. Is it us, all of us, that we are children still? So is it when we start to try to educate, to bring the laws of God in our lives, but bit by bit, because we will understand the laws and learn how to practice it in my daily life.
Okay, anything else? What do we understand about moral progress?
I like when Kardec says the art of managing characters, because I think when in certain situations we don't have the time or don't have the objective of managing characters or changing the behavior, we're just there to pass information and to make sure that the child gets information about something without paying attention to the behavior or how to change that behavior pattern. I think this, when we learn to manage the character as well as developing intentions, I think this is where the moral progress will also happen.
Okay, anything else?
We have to improve ourselves to make sure that we are in a position, because it says there at the end, this is a serious error to be that it's enough to simply have knowledge. We can't just say to somebody, look, read the Spirit's book. I'm not that well advanced, like my mind. So I'd say, yeah, that's what you've got to do. You've got to set an example. It's not, you've got to change. Otherwise people say, who are you to tell me how to behave in that book if you're not behaving that way properly yourself? And it's a bit harsh comment, but I don't mean it that way. I mean, what they're trying to tell us is that before you show anybody the book, before you explain, you've got to have moral perfection. We have to show it ourselves, or at least point it out in the book and say, look, we need to advance together, perhaps, something like that. It's not that easy. None of us are that perfect.
Okay.
Yet, that's why I feel.
So as the question is referred to ourselves individually, I come back. What do we understand about moral progress in a practical way on daily basis?
I think it's the development of the values or the virtues.
Do we have different understanding about moral on earth? So what do we understand here about moral progress? Because there's different definition, different understanding of moral on earth.
This moral is related to the God's laws.
This moral is related to the internal moral aspects. Because we have the collective moral, we have the human moral ways, the societal laws of moral. We are here referring to the internal, individual moral progress. Yes? Why? Because we are all unique beings in the universe. We all have been created by God with love, and we bring within the natural laws in the universe with us. So we need to develop that morality which is based on the individuality according to the natural laws, which sometimes may be different than the moral laws of the humans, which we are part of the human society. But we need to learn so that we progress according to the natural laws and not according to the human laws, which are mutable and changeable. Not to say to go against human laws, but just to progress our consciousness and try to analyze what suits us within the natural laws in relation to the human laws where we are learning. Is that making sense? And why do they say the key to moral progress? What comes to our minds when we read the word key? Education will be the key to moral progress. When we read the word key, what comes to us? Any idea?
The main point.
The main point? The way. And what is the main point when we refer to the internal moral progress? What is the main point? The key. Would we say that is the faculty of freedom that God gave to every one of us? Because without exercising freedom according to the natural laws in the universe, will we evolve?
well, because the education help us to understand. So we're starting and thinking, make like having think about what's going on, and then I will be able to use my free will accordingly.
Free will is the key for us to evolve, because that is the faculty, the divine faculty that is given to us. But of course, it's not alone. We talk about moral progress, as I mentioned, the internal morality, the individual morality, which as more as we evolve, we come back to our center and stimulate and activate the natural laws, which refers to all the values regarding the virtues. And then we learn to use freedom, not according to the understanding of freedom that I do what I want to do. That is not freedom. The freedom that we choose naturally to move ourselves mentally, emotionally, according to God's laws. And then we are cooperating for the individual progress and also on the collective way where we are. So moral is, we have different definitions on earth. So much so that the moral laws from country to country, sometimes they change because they are mutable, changeable. But here the moral values are referring to the universal laws. When the art of managing characters is understood, as well as the art of managing intelligence, we will be able to correct characters in the same way that we strengthen the plants. According, since I already touched on that, what else comes to us now when we refer to it? What do we understand about managing characters? What comes to our minds? When the art of managing characters is understood, by whom? By us, individuals, emotional beings, each one of us. Yeah? Because otherwise we sit back and wait society change. No, we are here to change ourselves so that we cooperate in the society. Yes? And what do we understand about managing characters? Who has an idea?
I understand it as working on, let's say, emotional intelligence, learning to change our behavior, not just to, for example, at work, not just to know how to do my job or how to do a task, or how to deal with my emotions when I am doing the task, or how to deal with other people when I am in that situation, in this sense.
Okay. What else, apart from what Cynthia said regarding managing characters? Any other idea? Is developing the ability to manage our own thinking, our own thoughts, our own emotions, our own behaviors. Characters means the values of the immortal being, the spirits who we are. And again, we go back with previous moral progress. Once we understand, we bring the key within to activate this management from the self level onwards, which is the divine aspect in us. We have conditioned ourselves quite a lot from the ego state of mind. Now, in the moral progress, which is internal, we are invited to activate the divine aspect with us and then managing the old ways of being, the old habits in a new way, how we are understanding now. So collaborating to re-educate ourselves within that in a loving way as Jesus invites us all. Then, however, this art requires much tact, much experience, and profound observation. Now, within that phrase, what do we learn about ourselves? This art requires much tact, much experience, and profound observation. What do we learn about us with that phrase? How is that coming to us? Any idea?
I think still talking about the managing characters. And I was listening to a psychiatrist, and he was saying that how could we be able to understand what's going on with the child? He was talking about a child, but we can talk about everyone because we still as a child. When he was talking about biological age, and then he was saying, if you'd like the children talking to you, you need to listen to them. And listen to them, we will see what's going on with them inside, like with their emotions, what is their beliefs, what's hurting them, and then you will see what's going on within their selves, and then you'll be able to help them out. And then I understand a little bit when they say about managing character, and then when they say requires tact, requires experience, requires profound observation, because if you don't change from one day to another, from day to night, or from night to day, we won't be able to do that with others. Actually, we're helping them, or we are helping ourselves to try to understand how our behaviors and what you should do in order to overcome that situation in a better way. So therefore, the moral education is important, because sometimes I see to mention, it's not only intelligence that will help us to overcome shadows. Intelligence is important because I will understand, but there is a moment that I need to try to organize myself and need to manage with my emotions. And then I understand about the managing characters, because it's gonna be intelligence and emotion the same way.
This art requires much tact, much experience. From whom?
How do we develop tact?
Right.
You sent a speech this week from a woman. She said that when she's going to answer an email, she prepares to do that. And I think this is behaving with tact. But I think how to do it, like in this rush of daily life, how to stop to do it.
It's easy for us to reflect about society, about people, but here the spirits are coming back to us, for us to know how do we deal with the tact in that way. First, if we are in our daily lives just running and crashing around, do we have internal space to listen to us, to be with us, to feel, to observe us, to develop that, let's say, subtle way of self-perception in order to perceive others? No, because we will be, let's say, focused on a material level. When she's talking about beyond the materialistic way, because she says, and she is a person who is very involved in the spiritual world, and she also says she more or less has a, let's say, stable life, and yet she's lived also alone, so she doesn't have a lot of people around, and yet she waits for the right time to be slowed down, to be calm, to be centered, to be open, to be receptive. That is a consequence of the self-education that we go through the different existences in re-educating all the, let's say, the false values, the values that we still may remain agitated, irritated, anxious, or all of those psychological and emotional shadows that we overcome and enlighten them, and then we open more internal space. It is down to maturing ourselves spiritually. As more child we are, a childish state, more disturbed we are, let's say, and less internal space we have, less maturity. And as more as we mature, more we will develop that psychological or spiritual tact. Because our responsibility will increase through the maturity, because no one can mature without learning to be responsible. And through that, we learn to make different choices in life, despite being on earth. We become more detached on the materialistic things and experiences as a free choice and developing the inner freedom according to the natural laws. Then we mature more internally, and we have that inner space, because we know that we are much more responsible in relation to whatever we are doing. Not just to be there, but how to be internally in relation to that. Does that make sense? So when I was saying in relation to much experience, that is us as immortal beings through the different reincarnations or lives experiences that we go through, we won't learn in one everything, and as more experience we conquer in each existence, more abilities or faculties we have on a deeper level regarding observation. Because if we stay more on the superficial level, we cannot be temporarily prepared to observe profoundly. Is that making sense? Yeah? It's almost like children. They cannot observe what adults can observe. Is that making sense? Yeah? Anything else here? Did it clear for you?
Yes. I was just like thinking how to do it in the same person when we have this constant pressure in doing a lot of things.
That is part of our education process in Earth, because we bring those habits with us or those conditions, and then we think that life is in that way, but it's not what the Enlightened Spirits are teaching us. But in order for us to change, we need to re-educate ourselves as immortal beings who are temporarily on Earth, and then that will also touch on our personal interests, on our selfishness, because a lot of behaviors, a lot of needs, a lot of habits that we have, they may be based on selfishness. So when we address that and we develop the opposite, we also will change habits, what we do, in the way that we do things. That is part of the evolution. Does that make sense? It sounds like when we refer to the gospel according to Spiritism in relation to Mammon and God. So if you prioritize Mammon, we are deficient in relation to God. One of the two are predominating in our psyche. And it's the one that we choose through our education, spiritually speaking, so far. But sooner or later, all of us will re-educate ourselves that we are on service according to God. And Mammon is, let's say, dependent on the directions from the Creator and not slaved by itself on the old values. Does that make sense? So that is what is part of our journey as we evolve. And the last phrase says, it is a serious error to believe that it is enough to simply have knowledge in order to apply it advantageously. How can we develop that more apart what has been said already? Do we still on earth value a lot knowledge? We still, yes, and why?
I think it's for many reasons. Could be associated with power, with vanity, or
with power, with vanity, with pride, isn't it? Because you still value a lot if you are very articulate on the intellectual level. Doesn't matter what you do apart from that, yes? So it comes down to the power, but the power from the egoistic state of mind, not the power from the self, from the center. Because you also have the power from our essence, but that is different. So not to say that we don't need to learn, that we don't need to develop our intellectual intelligence, we do, but not to be enslaved by it, or not to be, how can I say, limited or unbalanced, or to prioritize one aspect in deterioration of the other. So we learn, we study, because we need to develop those faculties in order to understand the natural laws in the universe, but now also, or the opposite of selfishness, we also learn to be humble. Then we develop our emotional side. And as more as we develop the emotional side, we do understand that whatever we have learned so far is almost nothing in relation to the universe. It's precisely what Socrates teaches us. Everything but they know that they do not know. So that is when we become humble. We free ourselves from the pride that we think that the bit that we know a lot. Bear in mind that we are beings in evolution, and we are learning on the planet Trine and Expiation, which is a very primitive planet. Therefore, whatever we know here may be a lot, and it's good if it is, but it's very little in relation to the knowledge in the universe. Is that right? Can we move on here now? Let's move on to the next one. Still, we are referring to the question 917. Jack, would you like to read it for us, please?
Whoever has observed the children of the wealthy, as well as of the poor, from the moment of their birth, noticing all the harmful influences that act on them as a result of the weakness, ignorance, and negligence of those who guide them, and also noticing how often the means employed to mobilize them usually fail, will not be surprised to find so many shortcomings in the world. Let efforts be made towards morality as much as towards intelligence, and we will see that if there are obstinate natures, there are also, in a greater number than you might think, those who require only good cultivation in order to yield good fruit.
Thank you. Let's go through gradually again, as we do, which is easier for us to understand. When we start the first part of this paragraph, what do we learn from? What comes to our minds from the first part of this paragraph? Whoever has observed the children of the wealthy as well of the pure, from the moment of their birth, noticing all the harmful influences that act on them as a result of the weakness, ignorance, and negligence of those who guide them, and also noticing how often the means employed to moralize them usually fail, will not be surprised to find so many shortcomings in the world. What do we learn here by this first part? As immortal beings, what do we learn here?
He developed it so well in that part. I really regret that we translated, because it's very interesting because it talks about, it's interesting that they say this is a result of weakness, ignorance, and negligence. Because negligence, I understand. I think ignorance as well, because sometimes parents might try to educate a child, but they might think they're doing it in the right way, but it might be wrong. But what would be weakness?
Good question. Result of the weakness, ignorance, and negligence. So negligence, we know what it is. Examples, for those who may not know what is study with us. What are examples of parents having negligence in their relation to educate their children?
It would be neglecting the child, not paying attention, or
neglecting the child, not paying attention, ignoring the child. What else?
the needs of the child.
The needs of the child. Okay, what else?
Sometimes they don't want to put limits or barriers because they are busy doing other things, so they are very busy on their interest, personal interest.
Okay. And now, what do we understand about the result of weaknesses? What do we understand about, as Cynthia asked? What is the chapter that we are studying? Moral perfection, isn't it? So what is that weakness related to?
Okay. So the weakness in terms
I think on a morality, on the moral level, or on imperfections, or on shadows. Yeah? The weak points in the weaknesses, yes?
Because when I have a shadow and I can see my child, my children having the same child, or might have difficulty to bring it up and educating the limits, because I also bring that thing or difficult to relate with that within me.
Yes, for example, weaknesses here as well as study here I could be as a mother or a father selfish, couldn't I? And in that way, that would also impact the way that I would be educating my children, correct? Selfish or prideful or what else? Attached too much into things that it will have a heavy impact in the way that I will be educating my children. Or if I'm lazy, again, it's a weakness that I bring within myself. Is that clear now? And now, ignorance, what do we understand? As a result of weaknesses and negligence we explored already, how about ignorance? What do we understand about that? Noticing that the harmful influences that act on them as a result of weakness, ignorance, and negligence. What do we understand about ignorance here? That can harm or be a harmful influence in educating our children.
I think ignorance is us passing what we know and not sometimes trying to make an effort to know something different, to try to make something better. For example, if I have a certain part about passage, with sometimes without reflecting if this is right or not, but it could be for the lack of knowledge, ignorance in the sense of lack of knowledge.
Okay, could be the lack of knowledge, but could also be the ignorance in relation to the natural laws of life. Is that making sense? Because we are talking about the moral education, finally, the moral progress. So I think it has a lot to do with the ignorance in relation to the natural laws in the universe. If I, as a parent, haven't developed much, that will also be a limitation for me to educate that child of God, let's say.
I'm so sorry, but the example Kardec gives that really worries me.
What did he say?
I never thought about what he said. For example, another one that keeps coming to my mind that he said, for example, when the parent says to a child, you're not going to eat this food, let's say it's a chocolate, you're only going to eat this food if you have a good behavior. So the parents are teaching the child, if the child has a good behavior, she can have something like, yes, so it's stimulating the child to eat more than the child has to, instead of explaining like eating habits and stuff. But he gave a lot of small examples, but it has a huge impact on the child growth in the sense of developing personality or the character. But it's so subtle, like it's so, I would never think that. I actually thought it was right to like say no, because it was stimulating good behavior, but it's not. It is selfishness.
Yes, and also conditioning in relation to, it's not just educating, this is healthy for this reason or whatever. And also sometimes, like again, our own limitations, we may find it challenging to be more assertive with our children because we don't have that moral development, so we become quite permissive. That could also be, and I think that is within the lines what you are referring here, and that the child also, it will impact the child later on as an adult. Usually starts already on the adolescence level onwards. Yeah. Anything else here? Are we clear? Then we move on here now. Let efforts be made towards morality as much as towards intelligence, and we will see that if there are obstinate natures, there are also in a greater number than we might think those who require only good cultivation in order to bear good fruit. What comes to our minds now with this last phrase in this paragraph?
There is one thing that Arnoldo says that touched me a lot. He says we usually are very worried about the school that we're going to take or pay for our children. So we go there, we do the researches, we see who is the head teacher, what they are teaching, like the type of the school is very well recognized or not, because we are worried about the future of our sons and of our daughters, and it is important. However, we forget about the moral aspect. We forget that spirit can be someone with so many shadows, within like all difficulties, in so many ways. And then we brought up some examples. And then we forget about this. So we are worried about the materialistic, as they're saying here, the intelligence. It is important. However, we also need to remember that there is another wing, as Andrea really says to us, that's really important for us, because he says, is it someone trying to take their life, not because they don't know how to make an equation or like a equation, but it's because they have got problems or they have got shortcomings that they're not able to help their own selves to try to overcome those shortcomings. And then this is going to be the morality that's going to help us out. That's going to be the laws of God that are going to help me out to understand that we are immortal spirits. We bring with us our own shadows, however, bring with us our lights as well, so that we have already cultivated, that what you need to try to develop, that the life is full of good things for us. However, we're going to have difficulties, and those difficulties is going to be an open door for us if we know how to deal with that, in order to liberate ourselves throughout those shortcomings. So it's very important for me in nowadays.
It's very important because that comes down to the ignorance also could be in one way of analyzing I may be, as a parent, ignorant in relation to God's laws. I may just didn't have that brought up, or I don't want to look now as an adult. I ignore the spirituality, I ignore religiosity. I don't have time in my life to cultivate it. Therefore, my children will never be in contact with that, and it will impact later on. Because within Spiritism, we learn that the first school is actually the family setting. That is the first school for the spirituality, is reincarnating. And that is, let's say, the major lessons to be presented in relation to morality, which is the natural laws, the laws of God, to learn to be forgiving, to learn to be relating with tolerance, with patience, to learn to be a better person in the society as we relate. So later on, when they come to the age to go to the school, sorry, which is also important, but the child has moral values that makes them stronger. Because a lot of parents, they don't present religiosity or God to the children. Later on, their adolescents, do you have any spiritual path? No, my parents never talked about, they never showed. And that is a responsibility for us. Because we are the first representatives from God on earth to help his children, or our children, to evolve. Yeah? Especially these days as we are on earth, which are very challenging phases that we go through. So much permissiveness that goes on all sides. And there, when we can help us and help the children, because we may think, well, it's a lot of years. But actually, when we think about, it's not that much that we need to dedicate fully and help them and engage with the spiritual values, talk about God, talk about prayer, the importance of prayer since the early age on, teach them in a loving way, not in an enforced way because then they reject, but in a loving way that they accept that they engage in that, those natural resources that they later on will feel strengthened by. Okay? Can we move on there? So let's move on to the next paragraph then now. Still we are in the question 917, which the first part says, people want to be happy, and this sentiment is in their very nature. Let's stay with that phrase. People want to be happy. Who are the people? The immortal beings, the reincarnated spirits who are on earth. And this sentiment is in their very nature. Who wants to explore and expand that? How do we understand that? And this sentiment is in their very nature. What comes to our minds with that? People want to be happy. And this sentiment is in their very nature. How do we understand it? Ideas?
Everyone wants to be happy, content with what they are. And sometimes you're brought up in a society, which we discussed in the last one. And sometimes a lot of people are the society they're born into. The attitudes, not just at school, but in the media, in the family. But we won't know what it's like, but they didn't, and I was on the last war or something. But most people thought it was right to go out and kill. You know, this was an attitude, you know, and I think that one of the problems that we have in society is they don't fully understand the realities of life after death, and that we are eternal souls. And if we were taught at school the spiritual, and if we had a society that said, this is the basis of our morals, this is the basis of our life, we wouldn't have most of these problems. There would always be someone who disagrees.
Yes, but the majority
is a whole. If you watch the news on television, the way it's brought across, you look at the war scenes, and you look at the history that we've had for the last 100 years, you'll find they haven't got a clue.
That shows how distant we as humanity are in relation to God's laws. Because when they say here, people want to be happy, people, as we already said, are all of us immortal beings who are reincarnated in a new body. And this sentiment is the very nature. Sentiment, we are reflecting about our emotional dimension. And in their very nature, because we have been created by God with love in order for us to learn to love, and we bring His laws within our deep consciousness, and only when we live according to His laws will we be naturally happy. So we bring innate because we bring the God's laws within us. Although we have not learned in society, majority of us, but that is important that we are learning now. Despite in the society where we are, we bring these natural laws within. Because the natural laws that God created us with has the purpose for us to really be happy. But we are only happy if we model and organize ourselves according to God's laws. Outside those laws, we may be happy relatively on the ego state of mind. But sooner or later, the law of cause and effect will call us back to connect with our essence and then learn more and learn how to engage with the natural laws. Those, I repeat again, that God gave us since our creation, and when we learn about them, when we accept them, and when we live according to them, then we will be really happy. Even going through trials and expiations, which is a natural process in our level of evolution where we are. So innate is because of that way. Clear? That is why they work without ceasing in order to improve their situation on earth and to seek out the causes of their ills in order to cure them. What comes to our minds now in this following phrase? Is that a stimulating phrase? A motivating phrase for us? In which way?
The law of progress, I think, one of the laws of God. We are constantly trying different ways to evolve and to be better.
Precisely. The law of progress, as was mentioned previously, the law of society. What other law are we referring here? When we are seeking to improve on earth, the law of progress, the law of society, which other law? Law of cause and effect, as Jack said, because as more as we understand the natural laws, we know that we are immortal souls and we will free ourselves in the physical body, but we carry on dealing with what we did here. So once we understand that more, that also motivates us to change or to re-educate ourselves to become better day by day.
If you understood the law of cause and effect, I think that changes.
Yes, I think gradually we are already learning about it, and we can make a great impact in our existences and also help those who are around us, but not desperate ourselves if others don't do it now, because everyone is a child of God, and sooner or later everyone will learn that.
But if people have to go out in the world, even if they're spiritists or they're not spiritists, they're up against other people. And sometimes they find it's very difficult. You can talk about the principles of Spiritism and how you want to react, but these people are not going to do that. But you've got to work with them, you've got to, if you like, you've got a family that are like that, and it is difficult, but you've got to try your best.
It is challenging because this is a stage of evolution where we are at. And we come back with those from the past experiences that we can promote ourselves and perhaps impact their promotion spiritually as well. But it will not function in an imposition way. The challenge for us is to the level of our imperfections. As more as we spiritualize ourselves or bring light into our perfections, we diminish the power of our perfection, then it becomes also easier for us to interact with those who don't know what we do.
Sometimes you can teach someone the moral realities, and they won't accept it.
No, because morality we cannot teach. We can learn as we are here reading about, talking about, but morality has to do in changing our hearts.
I don't know if I mentioned this or whether it's relevant to here at the moment, but I was in Shepherd's Bush today. We were going out with it, and there was something called a job show. And I went in there, and there was a stand for getting youngsters to sign up in the army. And he was, as I was walking past, he looked at me and I looked at him and I said, "Is it still strict discipline in the army?" He said, "Yes." And I said, "Do you still train people to kill others?" He says, "Yes." I said, "But it says in the Bible, thou shalt not kill." He just walked away. I think it struck something, but I don't think he wanted to know.
Thank God that we know everything and everyone will change. because the law of progress is one of God's laws, and God is the creator of everything and everyone. So we are moving forward. The importance for us individually is to understand that in the society where we are, which is the right one for us to progress now, we within bring the key, as we saw previously, to change, to moralize, to spiritualize ourselves as much as we can do, despite of the values that we have here, and despite if people don't want to change. Because the others with their limitations are God's instruments to help us, to promote us in relation to Him. That is the inner wisdom that we become more clear, and then also we become less stressed by other people's limitations. And also free ourselves from the ego state of mind that we want to change others, because it doesn't happen. The spiritual evolution or spiritual progress doesn't happen with imposition from the external element. We need, all of us individually, to become aware internally and to be willing, sooner or later, to move towards that. Is that making sense? And then we move on here. Is that what it says? When they write, understood that selfishness is one of those causes, that it engenders the pride, ambition, cupidity, envy, hatred, and jealousy, of which they are at every moment the victim, that it brings trouble into all social relations, provokes dissension, and destroys trust, obligating them to constantly maintain a defensive attitude towards their neighbor, that engenders a sentiment that converts friends into foes, that they will also understand that this vice is incompatible with their own happiness. So what are we learning now with the last phrase in this paragraph? As students, as we are of the Spirit's book regarding selfishness, into question 917. How is that coming to us?
Interesting, and they still learn that vice is incompatible with their own happiness. But I think usually we seek happiness in the vices.
In this stage where we are, yes. Because we still are very attached to the passions, the earthly passions. You rightly said, we in general, still seek happiness on the vices level, on the passions level, which is our, let's say, more our sensorial memory. Yeah? And the real happiness, as was mentioned previously, we only will conquer when we learn about the natural laws and we re-educate ourselves with them, which we will learn to overcome our vices. We will learn the consequences of our vices in a short and long term, even if it may not manifest in a short term. But as we carry on reincarnating, it will come, let's say, be presented later on. Anything else? What are we learning here? Can we see a lot of vices that is mentioned in this part here? A lot of shadows, a lot of imperfections, a lot of aspects that may be within us that are the causes of our unhappiness. Because when we talk about pride and all of those cupidity, ambition, and envy, when we carry those aspects, so those false values, we are unhappy people. Is that making sense? What do we understand about our neighbor? Is the neighbor that lives close to my flat door or my house? Or how do we understand it here? Speak of people.
Yeah, other people, everyone.
Everyone that we are in contact with, yes, precisely. Everyone that we are relating directly or indirectly. Neighbor in a sense that we are all children of God and all brothers and sisters in humanity. Yeah?
Like when they say obligating them to constantly maintain a defensive attitude towards their neighbor. Because when we are focusing in our vices, we always think that someone is fighting with us. You always think that someone is against us. Every little thing that they do is it. We stop and think what they're doing. We're trying to have rational thinking, and then most of the time the person is not doing anything. But we are so blind with our pride, with our selfishness, that we think that the person is doing something against us. And then you kind of need to be like ready because they to defend ourselves. And then I was thinking one these days, like, isn't that what Jesus is teaching me? Is that the gospel? Because I'm not open heart to help people in this way. I'm very shut down. I'm very trying to defend myself, but I don't need to defend myself. I just need to actually learn to love.
So why do we defend ourselves?
Because I think I'm feeling, I think because I don't have courage enough to develop the virtue and the humbleness most of the time.
Because if you started to say we, if something happens, and we think that other people are doing something against us. So what is that showing? It's telling about our belief systems and our emotions, which are based on love, pride, and selfishness, and all the variations from both.
We have a distorted vision of that.
Precisely. Our lenses, as the Joana de Anjos, the benefactor, always says, our lenses are quite distorted or inverted or negative or toxic, depending what we bring within us. But because we are disconnected from all those aspects in us, we see them on others. And then we think the other is doing that and that because of this and this, when in reality the other doesn't know what we are thinking. The other person's intentions has nothing to do with what we actually are fantasizing. So why do we need to defend ourselves? Following what Joanna said? Why do we need to defend ourselves in that state of mind? We are always...
Maybe we are insecure to as I was speaking, sometimes I have this fixed thought and like think that what happening to me is happening with someone else. So I think about the situation, but kind of not get involved. And it's so silly because it's not what I thought it was. And I was ready to react, so ready to defend myself, or ready to, because of selfishness, to defend my rights instead of doing what I have to do.
Yeah, the rights. The rights, again, they are based on our pride and selfishness, in summary, let's say. Because we don't have real values built within, the moral values as we are studying here today. So the inner child, the inner self needs to defend because we don't have those real values yet established within. As more as we start to develop the virtues, which are the real values in life, especially starting with humbleness, which is the opposite of pride, then we will diminish that need of defending ourselves to the level, to the extent that we grow, that we mature spiritually. Is that making sense? Because then we don't need to defend ourselves, because as more as we activate the natural laws within us and choose to live according to them, then we don't need to defend ourselves from others, because we are constantly defending ourselves from ourselves. It is the opposite way. We defend us. Why? What does it mean? The relationship with the ego and self, or the relationship with the unconscious and conscious. We are defending our own limitations, restructuring ourselves in a loving way, and in that way we let go the defenses that we are ourselves, and we also clean the lenses that we see experiences. It always remembers our experience that I mentioned sometimes. A lady was sitting in the home and was always in the morning watching the neighbor. The neighbor was having a long laundry, washing the clothes and hanging them up, as we have the habit in Brazil. And she was looking for her kitchen and said, "My God, I need one day to go there and teach this lady how to really wash cleanly her clothes. Because look at them." And she was telling her husband, "Look at those, they are dirty." Every morning she was saying the same thing and really discussing about it. One day she woke up and she said, "It wasn't me. Someone must have gone there and teach that lady to wash the clothes properly." Then her husband said, "No, I woke up earlier today and I cleaned the window of our kitchen." So that means when we change the lenses within, we see the experience outside in a different way, in a more realistic way and less reactive. That is very, very important. Anything else that we have to say from this part here? It's really help you to reflect that we can, from now onwards, gradually, more and more cooperate in our own education so that we build values within that really bring happiness for us in this existence and all the other existences, or also happiness for those who may be studying without the physical body. They can also start to learn how to re-educate their thoughts, to re-educate their experiences in life, and let's move forward together in learning more about God's laws. And in that way, we are coming to the end today. And as always, we finish it with our final reflections. As immortal beings as we all are, created by God with love in order to learn to love. Here we are, in this blessed ambient, prepared by the enlightened beings, the loved ones, who are with us incarnate, and all of those in spirit. May we notice the good beings, the enlightened beings, who are helping us right now, who are pleased to be here with us and see that we show interest in learning, in studying, in reflecting about the moral laws, the ethical values, the values that are universal, that are good for us and are good for others, and are good for us today and will be good for us tomorrow. Knowing that much we received already here today, let's express our gratitude towards the Creator, towards Jesus, our friend and Master and guide, towards the enlightened beings who are always with us, knowing that no one is alone. We always are blessed and assisted by those who love us. We also take this opportunity together, with our minds and hearts connected in the love in the universe, send it towards all of those who may be related in one way or another with suicide, and asking Jesus, may you shine your light upon every one of those. May the blessings of your love soothe and calm them all. May we all carry on united as brothers and sisters in humanity, children of God, growing, developing ourselves and conquering real happiness within our hearts, within our minds, in following the pathway of goodness, of fraternity, and solidarity, today and always. So be it.
Are you